All right, so we have revisiting all 10 losses from the Bulls 1995-1996 season 30 years later, okay? We know that the Bulls, with Michael Jordan and Scotty and also, Dennis, they went 72-10 before the Golden State Warriors went 73-9 10 years ago in 2016. So let's see. Let's go ahead and revisit their 10 losses. As we know, with the 2016 Warriors, it was just a bunch of losses to teams arguably the worst teams in the entire league. Let's see how exactly it was for the '96 Bulls. Let's go. You guys see, I cut the beard. I have a baby face now, so it is kind of weird, but it's going to grow back, really fast, but whatever. Let's check this out.
Before the 73-9 Golden State Warriors ever rewrote the record books, the Chicago Bulls had already set the standard. Back in the 1995-96 season, Michael Jordan and the Bulls stormed their way to a then unthinkable 72-10 record. So just like we did previously with the Warriors' 9 losses, today we're going back to that historic 95-96 season and revisiting all 10 losses those Bulls suffered along the way.
You guys know about this snack? Pepero. I don't know. There's just some white cookies, wrapped around, some stick, and it's actually pretty good though. It's #1 in Korea.
When Michael Jordan returned to the NBA in March of '95 after his brief baseball stint, it was obvious that he wasn't quite in peak basketball condition. Of course, he had his bright spots, but when the Bulls were eliminated by the Orlando Magic in the Eastern Conference semifinals, it was generally accepted that he was just rusty. But heading into the '95-96 season, everything was different. Jordan finally had a full training camp, a full preseason, and time to get his legs back under him. The rust was gone, and expectations were sky high.
And said he is in so much better shape than he was the last 6 weeks of the season when he came back last year.
Now, unlike the Warriors, who opened their historic season with a 24-0 start, the Bulls only began 5-0 before suffering their first loss. And fittingly, that first loss came at the hands of none other than the Orlando Magic, the same team that had ended their season just months earlier. What made it even more surprising was that Orlando was without Shaquille O'Neal, sidelined by a thumb injury. On paper, it looked like a clear advantage for Chicago, and early on, it appeared that way. But after the first quarter, the game flipped completely. Orlando picked up their defense, and Penny Hardaway took over, pouring in 36 points, while Jordan finished with 23 on an inefficient 8 for 20 shooting night. Orlando pulled away for a 94-88 win, leaving people wondering if Chicago's playoff loss the year before wasn't just about rust. Maybe the Magic really were better. Then again, the Bulls were without Dennis Rodman. Chicago responded by winning another 5 straight games, before running into the team that they would eventually face in the NBA Finals, the Seattle Supersonics. The Bulls built a solid lead after the first quarter, and extended it even further by halftime.
Yeah, they have just sucked the oxygen out of this building. I mean, the Bulls look in mid-season form. I mean, they're 10-1. Jordan looks so much better than he did the last 17 games in the playoffs of last year.
But the second half told a very different story. Seattle played nearly flawless basketball, while Chicago completely stalled, scoring just 11 points as a team in the third quarter.
Seattle trailed by 18 in the second quarter. I thought they were done.
Jordan struggled, shooting 6 for 19 and finishing with 22 points.
Yeah, that's crazy. 6 for 19 for Jordan.
1 of 7 shooting for Michael in the second half.
With 24 seconds remaining, Gary Payton came up with a crucial steal on Jordan, a moment that felt like early foreshadowing for what would become a major storyline in the finals later that year. Payton led Seattle with 20.
Is this what Gary Payton is still bragging about today?
As Chicago took their second loss of the season.
Game over! The game is over! So the Sonics have handed the Bulls their second loss of the year.
The Bulls would go on to carry a 13-game winning streak into Christmas, improving to 23-2. The day after Christmas, they traveled to Indiana to face the Pacers for the first time since Jordan's famous I'm Back game. Chicago came out sluggish, and Indiana took full advantage, building a 19-point halftime lead. The Bulls made a push in the second half.
Here for the steal. MJ with the hammer. Yes, sir. 9-point
70-61 now as the Pacer fans start to boo. It has not been pretty, but the Bulls have clawed their way back to within 6.
Jordan scored 30 points, but needed 28 shots to get there, and Scottie Pippen added 26 of his own, but it wasn't enough.
Johnny, you made the point about
So far, every time they lost, Jordan was inefficient.
The next one comes after Christmas. Maybe they just don't like the holidays.
Rick Smits led Indiana with 26 points, Reggie Miller chipped in 20, and Chicago came up short.
And the Indiana Pacers and the Chicago Bulls 13-game winning streak. Bulls were trying to tie the record at 14, but just couldn't quite get it done. The franchise record of 14 straight.
But it's okay, because that loss would spark a franchise-best 18-game winning streak. By February 4th, heading into a matchup with the Denver Nuggets, the Bulls sat at an incredible 41-3 record. This
41-3.
People started seriously talking about the possibility of 70 wins. Denver entered the game at 18-26, and was widely expected to be overmatched, but they had other plans. The Nuggets caught fire in the first half, led by Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, who scored 23 points before halftime.
We had a unique player, obviously not the status of Michael or Scotty, but we had a unique player of our own who you had to deal with on the offensive end. That was Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf.
Denver stunned Chicago by taking a 31-point lead in the second quarter.
Damn.
You would ask me that we would have a 31-point edge on the Michael Jordan-led Chicago Bulls.
That's crazy.
But that's exactly
that's one thing to flex.
The Bulls refused to go quietly. They stormed back in the third quarter, outscoring Denver 39-16, with Jordan accounting for 22 of those points himself.
We threw everything at him, and if I remember correctly, I think he went for 22 or 24 in the third quarter alone. Part of you is kind of like, uh-oh.
Somehow, Chicago grabbed the lead in the fourth, but Denver would respond with a 15-5 run late in the game, pulling off one of the biggest upsets of the season.
15-5 run.
Have ended the Chicago Bulls club record 18-game winning streak. Biggest victory in recent history for Denver. Arguably one of the biggest in the history of the franchise.
Tumbo.
Just 2 days later, the Bulls were in Phoenix, and shockingly, they lost again. Charles Barkley dominated with 35 points and 16 rebounds.
This team goes 41-3 to start the season. They lose 2 in a row. And this shows you about this NBA. It's tough. They ran into a very hot Denver team, and now they ran into a Phoenix Suns team with a lot of emotion. That's the battle we're going to have all year, Vern, trying to prove everybody's going to be trying to gun down this team.
Chicago actually had a 16-point lead early in the second quarter, but the Suns controlled the rest of the game, handing the Bulls their 5th loss of the season and their first loss by double digits.
The first time this season.
Damn, okay.
The Chicago Bulls have lost by 10.
But they're not just going to keep walk through the NBA like everybody thinks they are.
At that point, all 5 of Chicago's losses had come on the road, and the next one would too. On February 23rd, the Bulls entered Miami with a 48-5 record. The Heat were shorthanded.
12 guys for the Chicago Bulls, a full team around Phil Jackson. The Miami Heat, it looks like a small gathering of friends, doesn't it?
But Rex Chapman played the game of his life, torching Chicago for 39 points, while hitting an absurd 9 of 10 from beyond the arc, all while trash-talking Michael Jordan. The Bulls mounted a late fourth quarter comeback and had plenty of time to steal the win, but Miami held on. Chicago bounced back with 6 straight victories, highlighted by Jordan dropping 53 points on the Pistons, before heading to New York 3 days later to face the Knicks.
And they have come in at 54-6, a record 70 wins, very much in sight, while the Knicks struggling at 34-26.
Now, Michael has been feeling very good as of late. 53 points the other night against
Wait,
Detroit. I asked him about
what was their record so far?
Coming into New York.
54-6, okay.
The Knicks struggling at 34-26.
Now, Michael has been feeling very good as of late. 53 points the other night against Detroit. I asked him about that last night. He said, coming into New York, I feel like maybe 55. I asked him again this morning. He said, the speed limit has changed. I feel more like 60. Mark?
60.
60.
The speculation from Michael Jordan.
But he would only score about half of that, and only had 2 other teammates reach double figures. New York, meanwhile, had 6 players score in double digits. Aside from a brief Chicago lead in the third quarter, the Knicks controlled the game from start to finish, handing the Bulls their 7th loss in convincing fashion.
Patrick Ewing.
Of the season for the Chicago Bulls.
We came out and we knew what we had to do. We got it done. You know, last time we played the Bulls, Scotty was talking a lot of trash that Madison Square Garden was his house. But we had to let him know that it's still ours.
About a week later, Dennis Rodman headbutted a referee after what he believed was an unfair ejection. Now, the Bulls still beat the Nets that night, but
Dude is a menace, bro.
for 6 games, a costly blow during their
Sorry, I have a cold.
especially with Scottie.
Alright, I'm back.
Headbutted a referee after what he believed was an unfair ejection.
Well, he headbutted the referee, bro. What a menace, bro. Dennis the Menace. You guys, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm saying. But like, bro,
the Bulls still beat the Nets that night, but Rodman was suspended for 6 games, a costly blow during their chase for 70 wins, especially with Scottie Pippen already sidelined by injury. That absence was felt on March 24th against the expansion Toronto Raptors in their inaugural season.
The rock stars were in town. Michael Jordan and the Jordanaires were in town. Everybody wanted to see that dude play, especially that season.
Chicago entered the game at 60-7. While
so Dennis suspended, Scottie on the sideline, all of those right there. So without all these elements right there, do you guys think the Bulls could have won more than 72?
Toronto sat at 17-49. No one expected drama, but they got it. The Bulls trailed by 1 with just under 20 seconds remaining, but couldn't convert on their final possession.
Damn, Jordan.
5 seconds. Pippen will have to let it go. 3. Steve Kerr.
Damn.
And the Toronto Raptors
Yeah. Too late.
pulled it out. They've done it. The Toronto Raptors have done it. They have beaten Michael. They have beaten the Bulls.
Damon Stoudemire led the upset with 30 points, as Toronto shocked the basketball world.
Think about it. They lost 10 games all year, and one of them was to an expansion team.
They played as well. Yeah, give them credit. And expansion team. And once again, this is not an expansion team.
You know, it's no big deal. We're still 60-8. We're in good shape.
I don't think there could have been a more important regular season game.
A trash team that was 17-48.
But that game, you never forget it.
Chicago recovered by winning 6 straight.
That's one thing to
games
remember,
in the
honestly.
8th matchup with the Charlotte Hornets.
And again, on the line, a 44-game winning streak in the regular season here at the United Center. An unblemished 37-0 mark here at home.
MJ poured in 40 points, but Charlotte relied on a more balanced team effort. The Bulls had multiple chances to win late, but couldn't capitalize.
Bro, there's no way.
The Bulls had multiple chances to win late, but couldn't capitalize.
That was one. Another one. Another one. Another one. Damn.
The Charlotte Hornets.
Oh yeah, Steve. That was Steve Kerr right there on the floor. Yeah, on the floor. He knocked his head, right next to another. Oh yeah, shish.
The Chicago Bulls. Snapping.
Damn. Hey, bro. They have 4 chances, bro.
On their home floor. It does what no foe has done.
4 putbacks, like this. No, I mean, one layup and then
Thankfully for
3
Chicago,
putbacks, bro.
steam faded quickly. Just over a week later, they secured their 70th win against the Milwaukee Bucks, surpassing the 1972 Lakers, a massive milestone and a huge weight off their shoulders.
But I must admit, we didn't start the season saying we're going to win 70 games. We start the season saying we're going to win a championship. We're halfway there right now.
Are you glad it's over now that the 70 is attained?
Yeah, I'm glad. And now we can focus on the playoffs, which is the most important thing right now.
Still, 1 goal remained, the most home wins in a single season.
Not many goals remain. There is one
Oh.
on the line today.
So Boston had that in 1986, okay. Chicago Bulls, 39.
Boston Celtics best home record of all time.
Only the Pacers stood in the way during Chicago's final home game.
Oh.
Indiana was without Reggie Miller, making it seem like a formality, but it wasn't. The Bulls trailed by 8 with just a
Wait, hold on.
The Pacers stood in the way during Chicago's final home game. Indiana was without Reggie Miller, making it seem
Without Reggie Miller, bro, come on.
formality, but it wasn't. The Bulls trailed by 8 with just under 2 minutes left until Eddie Johnson made a critical mistake.
I remember standing at the free throw line and I looked at him. I said, why don't you go sit down? Game over. I said, y'all gotta get this record. And he looked at it. We were up 8 points with about a minute and a half left. The next minute, I'm telling you, he played like it was game 7.
He decided to trash talk Michael Jordan before the game was officially over. And
Yeah.
his Pacers teammates were visibly unhappy during a timeout.
Long player, it was a 1-point game. So Larry Brown called timeout. And he goes to the bench. And I think one of my teammates said, did you say something to him, Chase? I said, yeah. I said, I told the game was over. And Larry Brown heard it. Larry was like, why would you do that?
Why would you do that, man?
The next minute and a half, he lost his mind.
But Indiana managed to survive, aided by a controversial call on Jordan at the buzzer.
I hit 2 free throws to seal the victory. He was just mad. And he was walking off the court, and he and I was like crossing paths. I said, man, what is wrong with you? And he said, just be careful what you act.
The Pacers escaped with the win, handing Chicago their 10th and final loss, and becoming the only team to beat the
Damn.
Bulls twice that season.
So because of that call, that's crazy.
Chicago finished 39-2 at home, just 1 win shy of the Celtics' all-time record. The very next night, the Bulls closed.
Okay, but they would have tied the Celtics. They wouldn't have passed them or whatever.
22-10, an NBA record at the time. Now, did you? Home, just 1 win shy of.
So this was their 10th loss. So they're not supposed to.
Celtics all-time record. The very next night, the Bulls closed the season with a win, finishing 72-10, an NBA record at the time. Now, did you guys notice that Chicago's final 3 losses all came by just 1 single point? If a few moments swing differently, we might be talking about a 75-7 Bulls team. And with Steve Kerr missing a potential game winner in their 8th loss,
That's
we could
crazy,
say
bro.
that he unknowingly helped the future Warriors eventually surpass the Bulls record.
Yeah, bro.
This guy's just accomplished is incredible.
Because the Warriors at that time, because the Warriors, they lost those games, by more than double digit, And you're telling me that, the Bulls lost a few of those 10 losses only by a single point? Like, wow. Bro, just only a few actions in those games could have changed history forever. This is crazy, bro. But yeah, he's right. It definitely helped the Warriors on the long run.
I thought nobody would ever beat that record.
Now here are some interesting facts.
What did he say?
Warriors eventually surpassed the Bulls record.
What you guys just accomplished is incredible. I honestly thought nobody would ever beat that record.
Now,
yeah, it's crazy. He was literally on that team, bro. Steve Kerr, bro. I mean, bro, if you hadn't missed that shot, the Warriors probably would have, been tied, or if a few moments of those close games, of those last few losses you guys have had went differently, you guys probably still would have held this record to this day. But hey, I mean, they're Bulls, but yeah.
Interesting facts. Kevin Garnett is the only player in NBA history to have played against both the 72-10 Bulls and the 73-9 Warriors.
I've seen that.
The Denver Nuggets are the only team to beat both of them. And it's crazy to think that Michael Malone has a win over the 2016 Warriors, while his father, Brendan Malone, has a win over the 96 Bulls when he was the head coach of the Raptors, which we talked about that game earlier. There were small differences between the Bulls and Warriors' record-breaking seasons. Golden State never lost back-to-back games, and they didn't lose twice to the same opponent like Chicago did. But the Bulls would gladly make that trade.
Yeah, man. 72-10 have a ring. 73-9, bro. They blew a 3-1 lead. Okay, all they had was 1 game left, bro. They couldn't get it done.
Finished their season with a championship, something the Warriors couldn't do.
It's understandable when you think about it, because one of those 2 teams had arguably the greatest player ever, and the other team was playing against arguably the greatest player ever. Like, This is crazy, but yeah. Anyway, this is it. You know, what do you guys think of those 10 losses from the Chicago Bulls? You know, it's honestly really crazy how, you know, a lot of those, you know, a few of those 10 losses were, you know, really close games. It's crazy, you know, how just a few moments, a few plays could have changed history forever. But hey, whatever, man. It is what it is. You know, things happen for a reason. But yes, maybe some of those games, you know, are really, you know, maybe some of those losses, some of those close game losses really pissed off the Bulls, you know, so bad that it gave them the fuel that they needed, you know, to get the job done in the finals that year, you know, against the Supersonics, you know, with Gary Payton. But yeah, you guys let me know what y'all think in the comment section. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.